I can still recall the stubborn scent of motor oil stuck to my skin, that harsh, metallic bite that lingered no matter how much I scrubbed with soap and water. In 2010, I was just Alex Walker, a guy fixing cars at my little shop in Los Angeles, pouring my heart into every engine. My days stretched long, bent over hoods, my overalls a canvas of oil smudges that mapped out every vehicle I'd nursed back to health. It wasn't flashy work, but it felt real, and I took pride in it. My wife, Julia, didn't share my enthusiasm. Sometimes she'd sweep into the shop, her high heels tapping past the tool shelves, her face scrunching up like the place was an insult to her senses. Our kids, Caleb and Ella, weren't much different. They'd sigh and roll their eyes when I offered to teach them something simple, like swapping out a tire, as if my rough, work-worn hands were an embarrassment. What they didn't know, what I hid behind a password on my old, beat-up laptop in the shop's office, was that I'd stumbled onto something huge, Bitcoin. I'd caught wind of it on some online tech board, this new kind of money no government could touch, and I tossed a few $100 at it when it was dirt cheap, just cents per coin. By 2010, I'd saved enough from the shop to grab 10,000 of those coins. I never breathed a word to Julia. Over dinner once, I'd brought it up, and she'd laughed, dismissing it as some silly internet scam, with that sharp, belittling tone she'd mastered. Caleb and Ella couldn't have cared less either, they were too wrapped up in wanting new sneakers or staring at their screens. So I stayed quiet, sneaking peeks at my digital wallet late at night when the shop was empty, watching those numbers climb as my family slipped further out of reach. Julia started coming home late, her excuses growing thinner with every passing week. Just a work thing, she'd mumble, tilting her phone away from me as it buzzed with new messages. I wasn't clueless. I'd noticed that silver Mercedes parked down the block too many times, and my buddy Ben, who'd been my pal since forever, swore he'd seen it creeping around after midnight. Ben, a fellow car nut, would swing by the shop with coffee, and we'd chat about engines or life's ups and downs. He didn't trust that Mercedes, and I was starting to feel the same. One night, I caught Julia outside my office, her voice hushed on the phone, "No, Michael, he's still around. Next week, I swear." Michael Bennett, some slick investment banker she'd met at one of her fancy networking gigs. I didn't call her out, not then. I just shut my laptop, the faint glow of my Bitcoin wallet fading, and sat there staring at the wall, a heavy ache tightening in my chest. Caleb was 16 back then, strutting around in his pricey sneakers, barely glancing my way when I asked about his classes. "Yeah, whatever, Dad, can you make it quick?" he'd grumble, like I was a bother. Ella, at 14, was always glued to her phone, her attitude a perfect echo of her mom's. They'd gripe about our plain house in our middle-of-the-road neighborhood, daydreaming about the fancy life Julia hinted Michael could give them. I'd drive home with the radio buzzing low, wondering when my family decided I didn't measure up. At dinner, I'd try to bridge the gap, maybe share a story about a car I'd fixed or ask about their day, but Julia would shut me down with a clipped, "That's nice," while Caleb and Ella exchanged smirks. "Mom says Michael pulls in more in a day than you do in a month," Ella blurted out once, her words cutting deep. Julia shushed her, but the sting lingered. Still, I held on to my secret. Night after night, I'd squeeze into my tiny home office, barely more than a closet, and open my wallet. Those 10,000 bitcoins were my anchor, a silent pushback against their contempt. I tried telling Julia about it years back, when Bitcoin was just a nerd's fantasy. "This could change everything," I'd said, a spark of hope in my voice. She just smirked. "Stick to fixing cars, Alex. That's what you're good at." Now, watching the Bitcoin price soar, I gave a bitter chuckle. My internet scam was worth more than Michael's fat paycheck, but I kept it to myself, not Julia, not the kids, not even Ben. It wasn't just pride keeping me quiet, it was a growing chill in my gut, a feeling that their affection had a price I couldn't pay with my oil-stained hands. One Monday, Ben pulled into the shop's lot, his old pickup grumbling as he parked. "Black, 2 sugars, just how you like it," he said, plunking a coffee cup down on my workbench. I was buried in a transmission repair, grease up to my elbows, but he leaned closer, dropping his voice. That Mercedes was back, dude. Parked near your house last night. Third time this week, I swear. My wrench fumbled, clattering onto the concrete floor, and I bent to grab it, stalling to get my thoughts straight. Probably just one of Julia's work buddies, I muttered, but Ben's skeptical eyebrow shot up, seeing right through me. At 11 at night, he pushed back. He pulled out his phone, showing me a fuzzy snapshot, Michael's flashy S-Class, no mistaking it. Guys called Michael Bennett. Some big-shot banker. Real smooth operator. That name landed like a lungful of exhaust, heavy and suffocating. I gave a nod, took a sip of coffee, and let the puzzle pieces snap together in my head. That evening, after locking up the shop, I sat alone in the quiet, the city's buzz fading beyond the walls. I fired up my laptop and checked my wallet again. Those 10,000 bitcoins glowed on the screen, a secret fortune nobody around me even guessed at. Ben's earlier words stuck with me. You still messing with that internet cash? He'd asked over coffee. I'd brushed it off with a grin. Just play money, right? But deep down, the truth stung. My family was drifting, chasing Michael's glitzy promises, while I held on to a future they couldn't even dream of. I locked the laptop, my secret wrapping around me like a heavy coat. The real question wasn't if they'd walk out, it was when, and what I'd do when that day came. The Sunday morning Julia laid it all bare was eerily still, no clinking plates from breakfast, no kids bickering over bathroom time, just me at the kitchen table with a mug of cold coffee, watching dust dance in a beam of sunlight. Her heels clicked down the hallway, crisp and purposeful, and she stepped into the room wearing a sharp outfit that screamed fancy brunch, not our usual church routine. Caleb and Ella followed, dressed up too, their faces stiff like they'd practiced this moment. We gotta talk, Alex, Julia said, her tone calm and rehearsed. She slid a thick envelope across the table, divorce papers, the lawyer's letterhead poking out like a warning. I'm done, she announced. The kids and I are moving on. I leaned back in my chair, not shocked but still feeling the blow land hard in my chest. Michael put those together for you, I'm guessing. Her eyes widened for a split second, caught off guard, but she steadied herself quick. You knew, she said, more statement than question. I shrugged. Silver Mercedes. Late-night texts. Caleb bragging about Lakers tickets. I fix cars, Julia, not my eyesight. Caleb squirmed, looking uneasy, but Ella stepped forward, her chin up defiantly. Mom's been unhappy for years. Michael actually understands her. Julia's jaw clenched, but she didn't quiet Ella this time. He's got a place in Beverly Hills, and we're moving there next week, she threw in, like it was a winning score. Caleb nodded along. Why stick around in this rundown house with a nobody like you? That word, nobody, hit like a dropped motor, heavy and jarring. I pulled the envelope closer, skimming the divorce papers. Clipped to them was our old prenup from 17 years back, from when her parents figured a mechanic wasn't good enough for their little girl. My lawyer says it's straightforward, Julia said, handing me a pen. I take what's mine, you keep what's yours. I thought about my laptop at the shop, those 10,000 bitcoins she'd laughed off, now worth more than Michael's entire polished existence. I could have laid it all out right there, watched their smug expressions crumble, but I held back. I signed the papers, my hand steady as a rock. That's it? Julia asked, her brow creasing at my calm. It's what you want, isn't it? I said, pushing my chair back and standing. A fresh start. Caleb called out as I headed for the door, that's all you've got, Dad. I stopped, the truth about my fortune burning to spill out, but I looked at them, already half gone, dressed in their slick new clothes, standing in Michael's shadow. Your mom's made her choice, I said. You deserve the life I couldn't give you, I said, letting the door click shut as I left. I drove back to the shop, the radio crooning some old song about moving on, my heart heavy but steady. My phone buzzed, probably Ben checking in, but I left it untouched on the passenger seat. The divorce was final, and they'd picked their side. For the next few months, I buried myself in work, wrenching on cars during the day and sneaking peeks at my crypto wallet after hours. Over coffee one morning, Ben tried to dig a little. "They're gone, huh? That Mercedes is parked at their fancy new place now. You still messing with that Bitcoin thing?" he asked, his tone light but his eyes sharp. I gave a half smile. "Just internet play money, Ben." He didn't press further, but his lingering look told me he sensed I was hiding something big. The shop kept me grounded, grease under my nails, the clank of tools, the rumble of engines, while my wallet's value climbed quietly, a secret I held close, all mine. 5 years down the line, I stepped into the spotlight. Bitcoin had skyrocketed, and my 10,000 coins turned me into a billionaire, even if I still rocked the same worn-out Benet jeans. At a blockchain conference, I crossed paths with Adam Parker, a young, whip-smart coder with bold dreams. He'd sniffed out my wallet address on some forum, pegging me as an early whale, and over lunch, he pitched a crypto security firm. "You've got that old-school hustle paired with a future-proof vision," he said, sliding prototype code across the table that could safeguard digital assets like a fortress. His passion hooked me, and we launched Carter Richard Security, leasing a sleek office floor in a downtown high-rise. I swapped my overalls for a suit but kept the shop humming, a nod to the guy I'd always be. Meanwhile, Michael's shiny world was crumbling. Ben clued me in first. "Heard some talk about that guy's company. Sketchy stuff going down," he said. Then Ashley Brooks, a reporter who'd been following my rise, called me up. "Alex, you got any connection to Bradford and Associates? Something big's brewing." I had no ties, but I knew who did. Julia had bet everything on Michael, her savings, the kids' college funds, their whole high-flying lifestyle. The news started trickling out, clients losing cash, deals falling apart. One evening, I flipped on the TV, and there it was, Michael in handcuffs, escorted from his office, the headline blaring, "Ponzi scheme collapse, 2 billion vanished." Julia's name was on the paperwork, caught up in his chaos, though she'd been a puppet, not a mastermind. I sat in my new office, the city stretching out below, and pulled up my wallet. The numbers shone, billions now, grown from those early gambles Julia had scoffed at. My phone lit up with notifications, texts, voicemails, all from them. "Caleb, Dad, we're in deep trouble. Please help. Ella, it's all gone, Dad. I'm begging you. Julia, Alex, I'm lost here." I let the messages stack up, unanswered. They'd traded me for Michael's dazzle, and now it had turned to dust. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of 8 years sinking in, wondering what they'd say when they came knocking. 8 years after Julia walked away, I stood at the peak of a world they never saw coming. Carter Richard Security wasn't just a company anymore, it was a pillar in the crypto game, our blockchain tech protecting billions in digital wealth. I swapped the shop's cramped office for a penthouse suite downtown, though I still cruised in my beat-up truck, the faint whiff of motor oil like a badge of honor. Ashley Brooks's first piece about me dropped then, From Greece to Glory, Alex Walker's Crypto Empire, and it spread like wildfire. Alex Walker's fortune, forged from early Bitcoin bets, ranks him among LA's elite, she wrote. I kept my old toolbox on display in my office, a reminder of my roots, while the world buzzed about my climb. Across town, Michael's empire was in ruins. The news ate it up, $2 billion gone in a Ponzi scheme, the biggest bust in years. Cameras caught Michael in handcuffs, his fancy suit creased as agents carted boxes out of his office. Julia's name was plastered across the scandal, her signatures on client forms, her bank accounts knotted up in Michael's scam, though she'd been played just like the others. The feds swooped in, seizing their Beverly Hills mansion, that glittering prize, and sold it off at auction. Caleb's tuition at USC went unpaid, and the school dropped him cold. Ella got the boot from her fancy private school halfway through the term. Julia's high-flying life shriveled to a dingy motel room off the interstate, her designer purses traded for a worn-out duffel bag. My phone wouldn't quit buzzing in the weeks after Michael's bust. Caleb's voicemails shook with desperation. "Dad, they took it all. I can't go back to college. Please, help us." Ella's texts came fast and frantic. "We're crashing in a dump, Dad. Mom's a mess, crying non-stop. Please." Julia pulled every string, phone calls, messages through Ben, even reaching out to Adam, pleading for a rescue. "Alex, we're flat broke. The courts locked my accounts. The kids are hungry," she begged. I sat in my office, the city's light stretching out below, and let the messages pile up, unanswered. They'd branded me a nobody, run after Michael's dazzle, and now they were sinking in the ruins he left behind. I didn't rub it in their faces. I got to work. When the mansion went up for auction, I had my team bid through the Richards Foundation for Financial Education, a project I'd been shaping with Adam. We snagged it for a steal, transforming that tacky shrine of Michael's lies into a haven for his victims. Chandeliers came down, replaced by classrooms teaching blockchain basics and money smarts, real skills to start over. Ashley Brooks was there, jotting it all down. "Talk about poetic," she said. "The guy they laughed at now owns their palace." I didn't crack a smile. This wasn't about getting even, it was about showing them what they'd never grasped. Then Julia showed up, just like I figured she would. Desperation has a way of peeling away pride. Security pinged me. "She's downstairs, sir. Won't budge." I pulled up the lobby feed, watching her pace, hair a mess, clutching her phone with Ashley's article staring back at her. I sent Paige, my assistant, down with an envelope I'd prepared. Julia ripped it open and froze, her eyes locked on the single sheet, my Bitcoin wallet address, transaction logs from 2010, proof of 10,000 coins, now worth billions. Her legs gave out, and she sank into a chair, muttering, "This can't be true." Paige's tone stayed icy. "It's been live since before the divorce. Crystal clear." Julia's face collapsed, every smirk, every dig about my internet scam hitting her like a freight train. "Please," she stammered, standing, her voice cracking, "I have to see him. Caleb's college payment is due tomorrow. Ella's school. We're in a motel, Alex." Paige didn't blink. "Mr. Carter's schedule is full, but you might have caught his foundation's news. It's helping fraud victims." Julia's phone pinged, Ella, texting about a final school notice. She stared at the envelope, then at the lobby TV blaring Ashley's latest report. Alex Walker's honest hustle built a crypto dynasty while others chased mirages. Her gaze fixed on my face on the screen, a stranger now, the man she'd ditched for Michael Sparkle. Adam swung by my office later, holding fresh security specs. "Saw her downstairs. She's in bad shape," he said. I nodded, looking out at the city skyline. "They chose their path," I said, my voice steady. He paused. "Foundation's nearly set. Shelter opens soon." I pictured the mansion, its halls now filled with learning instead of deception. "Good," I said. "Keep it moving." My phone buzzed again. Caleb, his voice raw, "Dad, we're so sorry. Just talk to us, please." I silenced it, the weight of 8 years settling heavy. They'd come knocking soon, begging, and I knew what I'd do, not for their sake, but for mine. That it was a rainy Tuesday, 8 years and a world away from the day Julia signed those divorce papers, when the knock came at my door. I'd traded the shop's gritty corners for a penthouse perched above LA, all sleek glass and steel, a far cry from our old, cracked driveway back home. My foundation was humming along, the old Beverly Hills mansion now a lively center for fraud victims, its classrooms filled with people learning what I'd figured out years ago: true wealth comes from creating, not chasing shortcuts. Ashley Brooks's latest article, Carter's Crypto Empire, had just hit, and social media was buzzing with it. I was sifting through shelter reports when Paige's voice crackled through the intercom. "They're here, sir. All three of them. Lobby security can't hold them back." I pulled up the security feed and there they were, Julia, drenched, in a thin, tattered coat, with Caleb and Ella beside her, looking like shadows of who they used to be. I told Paige, "Let them come up," and leaned back in my chair. The elevator dinged, and they shuffled in, water pooling on my polished hardwood, their eyes flicking from the modern furniture to the old toolbox I kept by my desk, a piece of the shop I couldn't let go. Julia spoke first, her voice wobbly but clearly practiced. "Alex, we're out of options. The motel tossed us out. Caleb's lost his USC spot, and Ella's school dropped her too. Michael's scam, it wiped us clean." She inched forward, wringing her hands. "I read the article. The Bitcoin. You're a billionaire now. Please, we need your help." Caleb nodded, his old cocky strut long gone. "Dad, I'm sorry. We were dumb. I was dumb. I can't even land a job." Ella's eyes brimmed with tears. "We're sleeping in a car, Dad. I don't know how to fix this." There they stood, the family who'd called me a failure, now pleading before the fortune they'd laughed off. I let their words hang in the air, heavy like the damp clothes they wore, and didn't answer immediately, letting the silence stretch. Then I stood, grabbing an envelope from my desk, same as the one I'd had Paige give Julia, but updated with my wallet's latest balance. "Take a look at this," I said, passing it to her. Julia opened it, Caleb and Ella crowding in close. The numbers hit them hard. 10,000 bitcoins, worth billions now, started back when they mocked me over dinner. Julia's breath caught. "All these years," Caleb whispered. "You were loaded." Ella just stared, tears streaming down her face. I leaned against my desk, arms crossed. "I started buying in 2010, kept at it while you all ran after Michael's glitz. You called it a joke. Turns out, it's the most solid thing I've got." Julia slumped onto my couch, gripping the paper like it was a lifeline. "Why didn't you say anything?" Her voice broke. "We could have stayed, figured things out." I gave a bitter smile. "Would you have stuck around? You chose Michael because I didn't measure up." "Caleb, Ella, you were right there with her. I signed those divorce papers so you could chase what you thought you wanted. Now you've got it." Caleb winced. "Dad, we get it. We screwed up. Just give us something, a loan, anything." Ella nodded, desperate. "Please, Dad. I'll do whatever you ask." I studied them, these strangers who used to be my kids, and felt that old pain harden into something tougher. "I'm not your ATM," I said, "but I've got something better." I slid a folder across the table, applications for the Richards Foundation. The shelter's up and running. Free housing, job training, blockchain courses. Apply like everyone else. Show me you can build something worth having. Julia's face crumpled. "You're saying we have to live there? In Michael's old house?" I nodded. "It's not his anymore. It's mine, and it's for people who lost it all to scams. Seems like you fit the bill." Caleb snatched the folder, flipping through it. "You're for real? After everything, this is all we get?" I held his gaze. "It's more than you left me with when you walked away." For a long moment, they stood frozen, the rain drumming against the penthouse windows. Then Julia rose, clutching the envelope and folder, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're making us pay for what we did," she said. I shook my head. "Nah, I'm showing you the ropes. I built all this," I said, waving a hand at the sleek room and the glittering city view, "while you were busy tearing us down. Now it's your turn to figure things out." Ella's quiet sobs filled the silence. Caleb's jaw clenched, but he kept his mouth shut. They shuffled toward the elevator, shoulders slumped, and the doors slid shut behind them, sealing their exit. I turned to the window, gazing out at LA's lights twinkling through the storm. My phone pinged, Adam with news, the foundation was packed, with applications flooding in. That's good, I thought. Let them take their place in line with the rest. A decade after that rainy night, I found myself in my garage, gripping the same old toolbox, showing a group of kids how to fine-tune an engine. Sure, the penthouse was my address, but this spot, tucked beneath my building next to a shiny car I barely drove, was where I felt like me. The Richards Foundation had grown bigger than I'd ever imagined. That Beverly Hills mansion, once Michael's gaudy badge of fraud, had become a lighthouse, its classrooms alive with students and families piecing their lives back together from scratch. That morning, Ashley Brooks dropped her anniversary article, Carter's Decade of Redemption, featuring a shot of me in a suit, wrench in hand, under the headline, From Shop Floor to Skyline, a fortune forged in honesty. Michael was still locked up, his latest parole bid shot down. The news couldn't get enough of his downfall, $2 billion vanished, countless lives upended, Julia's included. She'd ended up in a cramped Van Nuys apartment, punching the clock as a dental receptionist, her old glamour long gone. Sometimes I'd catch her on security feeds, lingering outside the foundation's gates, watching kids learn the lessons she'd never bothered with. Caleb was working a counter job at an auto parts store downtown, his USC ambitions faded after barely making it through community college. Ella, though, took a different path. She started slipping into foundation seminars, sitting quietly in the back, her social media pivoting from flashy selfies to posts preaching financial smarts. Years back, they'd all applied for the shelter. I left it to the board to decide. Julia's application got rejected, too much history weighing her down, but Caleb and Ella got in, though they didn't stick around long. The foundation was my true victory. Adam was running the blockchain courses now, doubling as a USC professor, using Caleb's story as a warning in his lectures. Always verify, people, he'd tell his students. Just ask my buddy's kid. We'd graduated thousands, turning scam victims into tech workers with honest jobs that built real wealth. The shop never closed either, it became a training hub where I taught kids to pair greasy wrenches with crypto code. Ben, retired but still loitering around, would flash a grin at them. Alex carved out this empire right under these car lifts, he'd say, nodding to the spot where I'd first checked my Bitcoin wallet. It's grit that endures. My phone hardly ever lit up with family messages anymore. After that night they came begging at my door, their pleas dried up. Years ago, Julia made one last try, catching Paige at a foundation event. Tell Alex we get it now, she said, gripping those shelter application forms. Paige just handed her a flyer. You can apply online, she said, cool as ever. Caleb sent a job inquiry once, asking for a maintenance gig at the shelter, but I told Paige, hire on merit, nothing else. Ella's mentorship application sat on my desk, untouched, I'd let her prove herself like everyone else. Ashley captured it all in her documentary, which aired that week. Carter didn't tear them down, her voiceover said. He outworked them, turning their collapse into a lifeline for others. I'll never forget the mansion's opening day. I stood there as the auction gavel dropped, signing the deed while Michael's old clients looked on, some angry, some thankful. This place is for the people Michael ruined, I told the reporters, with housing, classes, and real skills to start over. Ashley's camera caught Caleb's phone slipping from his hand to the pavement and Ella's tears smearing her live stream. They'd heard my will announced live, most of my billions going to the foundation, a trust for disadvantaged tech kids, and not a dime for them. Across the street, Julia stood frozen, her tattered purse bulging with financial literacy flyers, the truth hitting her too late. That night, I watched the documentary from my office, the city's lights sparkling below. The final scene showed me in the garage, surrounded by kids, my toolbox open wide. It's not about the money, I said on screen. It's about the grit you build inside. Some folks learn that the tough way. The foundation's plaque flashed next, engraved with, real wealth lifts up, fake wealth drags down. Next to my desk, my old wrench sat, worn but sturdy, just like me. Julia's last moment on the security feed showed her pausing at the foundation's gates, then turning away for good. It felt like closure. Caleb punched the clock at his auto parts job, Ella typed out her latest post on financial caution, Michael stared at his prison cell walls. Meanwhile, my empire kept growing, not out of spite, but from what I'd always believed, honest work outshines everything. As the credits rolled, I picked up that wrench, its familiar weight grounding me. The kids I mentored, the lives we pieced back together, those were my true riches. Karma didn't need me to throw punches, it just needed time and my steady hand. I kept building, showing every day that the grease on my palms was worth more than the flash they'd chased. Thanks for hearing me out. If you liked this story, drop a comment and give it a thumbs up. I'd love to know what you think, share your take.